In August of 2025, there was a surrogacy contract entered into between McKenna West, a nurse who was at the time living in Alaska, and the parents, whose last names are Gilker and Ahmed. And essentially, for McKenna West to be what's called a gestational surrogate, as opposed to a traditional surrogate, meaning that it was not her egg. She was impregnated through IVF, in vitro fertilization, with the donor egg. And so, under the agreement that was entered into for surrogacy, there was a right of the parents to elect to terminate, and there was consideration given to whether that was a possibility. When the news came out that the child had a significant heart defect that meant that serious surgery was going to be needed due to this congenital birth defect, and questions about how the child would fare, the initial decision of the parents was to say that they wanted to terminate, and McKenna West balked, and there was a period where she basically kind of was radio silent from them, and they didn't know what was happening. During that time, she moved to Texas and took the position that she was moving to prevent being forced to have an abortion. She actually did have an abortion scheduled in Alaska, and she canceled the appointment. But she went to Texas. She filed suit there, and the Texas Attorney General intervened. The parents also filed suit there. Originally, it appeared that the state of Texas was going to take action to ensure that the child couldn't be taken out of Texas and that the child had the surgery. Although the Texas Attorney General backed out of the case after the child underwent the surgery, leaving really just McKenna West against Gilkar and Ahmed. And the decision that we're waiting for today is really an interesting, a fascinating question of who gets to decide who gets to take care of this child. Currently, Gilkar and Ahmed, who call the child baby Rumi, Rumi, after the Sufi poet, are currently in custody of the baby Rumi, and the advocates for McKenna West are calling the child baby Gabriel. And the question is Texas going to respect the gestational surrogacy contract that met California requirements, or are we going to have a sort of battle of the states, given that Texas has different rules there? That would be unfortunate in my view, because it would just lead to a greater risk under these contracts. It would be much better to live in an environment where states are respecting each other's contracts. But really, really interesting questions raised here about the balance between the rights of a mother. It does not seem that there was ever a situation where there was going to be a compelled abortion. One of the things that I think is most interesting about this case is the way that the anti-abortion world has reacted to surrogacy. We've seen probably the clearest expression that surrogacy is being viewed by the anti-abortion community as kind of a form of human trafficking, if you will, which is a kind of extreme position. You would think that there might be circumstances in which people who couldn't have children, that allowing them to become parents through a surrogate would be something that people who supported who oppose abortion might support, right? It means more children and more parents in the world. But I think there's something about the way in which surrogacy creates almost a economic transaction between a parent, the gestational parent who gave birth, mother, and the couple in this case who were acquiring parental rights, is complicating. It's interesting. It's very different than the case we saw in Alabama last year about IVF and whether frozen embryos were somehow how could be a basis for violation of laws about when those were accidentally destroyed. But we're seeing again all these places in which reproductive technology is butting up against this massive public health debate about reproductive rights. And it's going to be very interesting to see the way this case plays out and what ramifications it has going forward.